So I'm about ready to dive into the cement structure that is going to be wrapped around these two upper culverts. You know, when the water comes gushing out of here, it's quite aggressive. So I'm going to go ahead and build a complete frame around all the structure here. A pillar here, a pillar here, a pillar here, and across the top. It will come out 32 inches because in a future state, I will have a retaining wall right here. So I'm going to want to match that into the retaining wall, which is about 32 inches from the base of the road here as we've dug into it. Okay, and that lines up perfectly with the two rocks that I have set below as my target. Real scientific, of course. Now the challenge is it's pretty rough digging into that wall. So I'm going to have to do a little work first, make sure I have 5 foot of width all the way across. And then also too, going the other way, I will have to extend out approximately 3 feet. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and dive into just muscling out the dirt. Okay, if you remember this area here, this whole chunk right here was a part of the road base. It's compacted really, really well. Normally I would put some sort of road base down. I don't think I need to. This stuff is pretty solid. Then everything past that, we put that fill dirt, which was basically all dirty rock. So this base is really strong and I'm happy with it. So I'm going to go ahead and lay it out. Putting together our cement structure around the culverts. Of course, it starts right here in the shop with cutting the rebar to length and getting it all bent and set up and put together. I'm hoping this will be just a bit easier to work with than the gate. The gate had a lot of kind of moving parts around it, and it still kind of was moving when I put it into the box, but it worked out great as you just saw. So now it's on to the culvert cement, and we'll get that all wrapped up here over the next week. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start cutting some rebar, and here we go. Okay, this came together really, really well with the help of my assistant, Sherry, and she, helped me keep it all straight. You can't do this as a one-person gig or else it's just a cluster. So, ultimately, what we've got here is these two holes is where the two culverts will come through. And of course, I'll have a cement pillar in the middle and the two cement on the outside, and this will be cemented on top. The overhang in the front is actually for the water to hit cement. So instead of hitting rock, when it comes through those, and I'll show you a little video up here in the corner. Okay, when it comes through these culverts, it's blasting. It is literally like rushing water. So what I'll need is it to land on the pad in front, which I've got extended out about 2.5 feet. So it'll come through, hit that, then go into the rocks and then down and cascade into the pool before, in the collection pool, if you will, where we're going to collect the water so it'll go down the pipe and into the reservoir.
Sherry, you have gloves?
Yes.
Yeah. They're torn and my fingers are sticking out, but I got gloves.
Oh, no.
Well, you could have got another pair.
I was handed these. I'm going.
Yeah, I'm swinging around.
Yeah.
Watch your foot.
See the pipes.
Okay, so it's the morning after putting out the rebar setting around the culverts. And, you know, of course, last night I was thinking about it, and I really need a straight line. I need something to base the tweak of it off. There is not a straight thing to base it off. There's no rock, there's no pinpoint, so I've got to kind of establish one. I know that my road, the driveway, is supposed to be 16 feet wide. I know that I have 2 bricks on both sides, 2 pavers, for about 4 feet. You know, they're about 11 3/4, but we'll call it 4 feet for this discussion. Okay, so, you know, I need to make that adjustment. So then also too, the retaining wall itself is about the point of the road, about 3 feet high. So now I need to make that adjustment and say, okay, for every 6 inches you gain an inch back. So that's going to be approximately 6 inches towards the reservoir. So all these little adjustments that I have to make to the calculation to set the metal and make sure that that is lined up for success. So the first step is to drop a line, and because I'm over the air here, I'm not going to have the ability to just stay with this line. I've got to move it yet another 2 feet in and set it again. Okay, after much agonizing, I think I've got it. You know, at the end of the day, if it's, like I said, a little bit fat, 2-3 inches past the retaining wall, that's fine. It'll look fine. I'm back up at the shop to build the form. You know, looking at it's quite large, so I might take it back down to the creek and build it down there. But I do need to run some sides on both sides to fatten it up, because what's going to happen here is this will be still in the ground, and I'm going to want to put a box on top of it, and affixing all of that's going to require me to run sides up of it of 3/4 inch plywood, and also some boards. So it needs to be fattened up a little bit on the sides as you get closer into the box that'll go around the culverts. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and put these guys together and see how that all comes together, and then maybe back it out and take it down there and put it together. So as I was saying, I'm thickening this up because what will happen is the board that goes up the sides of the culvert boxes, if you will come here, and then the 2x4 will come to the inside to hold it, to keep it sturdy. And then these guys will be the guide to where I'll screw those into that 2x4, such that now that'll be tied into the ground with a stake, and it'll hold it all from there. It's going to be quite a bit of weight here. You're talking about somewhere around 30 bags at 80 pounds, 2,400 pounds of cement is going to be in this space. Now, obviously not all pressurized against this wall, but it will be quite heavy. So I want to make sure that I have it all tied together. Well, we're all set up for success. We have the rebar in place in the middle. We got our sides set up perfectly with the line that's running across to keep us all square for the future retaining wall. I do believe that this is ready to go. So tomorrow I'll pour this bottom, get it done, let it sit for overnight, and then the next day I'll come in and set the top. I will not be doing a monolithic pour, so it'll be 2 different pours. But I think we're ready to go. Well, here I go. We're starting off with the concrete that I had delivered from Home Depot yesterday. So we're going to go ahead and mix up about 7 bags. I estimate about 13 bags to put the footing together for this culvert area. And of course, again, I'm only going to fill that, let it harden overnight, and then come back and fill in the section. So this will be 2 pours to make this thing come together. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and get to work. So 26 bags later, I've got the base down. I think I'm a little over what I originally estimated. So I got to do some recalculations and make sure that I have enough bags, maybe another run to Home Depot. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and cut in the side there and make sure that I have a nice little rounded edge. And then from there, I'm going to let it sit and do its thing. I'm back up at the shop now to build the second part of the form that's going to go around the culvert area. This is the more intricate part, right? The bottom part was just a box. This, I have to kind of go into 2 steps and make sure that I have measurements correct. Unfortunately, nothing's square out there, so including the culverts. And I've got to push the board up against those culverts to block out the area that will create the tunnels in which the water will flow through. So with that, I am going to go ahead and frame this up as best I can, as close as I can get. I'm going to have to take the frame down to the site and get my final measurements for the tunnels, and then bring it back up here and do that cut, those cuts and connections. So with that, I'm going to go to work. So the first box I'm going to build is the top part that will be the ultimate shelf of the culvert area. This is the piece that will have the retaining wall bricks in the future that will be sitting on top of it. You might wonder why I'm going with 5.5 inches of cement. It's quite a bit, right? Well, the nature of this is that it's got to hold a couple bricks of retaining wall, which are quite heavy. They're 80 pounds per 18 by 12. So they're quite heavy. And on top of that, there's going to be grade A rock. On top of that could be a fencing, portion of the fencing that'll go around on the top across the bridge. So there's quite a bit of weight here. And that's the reason why I also have those 1-inch thick rebars that are running through the top that's going to hold this all together. Of course, my hope is that it's got these 3 strong pillars built out 7, 9, 7, so that they'll hold all this weight up. And, wish best luck to me, because I've never done this before, and I'm just trying to make sure that I build a strong enough structure that will ultimately stand the test of time. You know, when you're building a form, you also have to think about how it's going to come apart at the end. And the cool thing is, the way I'm doing this right now, this will be the piece that falls away in the front and the back, real easy to access, some screws, and it'll just fall off, which will allow the 2 sides to fall off. The only pieces that I think I'll have a little bit of work with, as I learned with the gate, is what's in the tunnel. So I'll be thinking through how those will collapse in and fall apart as well. Okay, so here is the form as it is right now. Of course, I've got to do some work on it. I'm going to take it down to the area and then do my final measurements for the tunnels. As you can see, the tunnels are starting to form up. Pretty cool. Okay, so I made the decision to go ahead and do everything down there once I'm going to cut all the pieces here and then bring it down there. It'll be a little bit of a pain in the butt down there because I'm going to have to lay on the ground and do a lot of screwing and kind of haranguing to get to it. But I'm going to cut all these pieces. I got my measurements up here. One of the good things about doing it down there is the cement that was poured in that tunnel is not perfectly level, so I'm going to have to make some adjustments on the fly. So with that, I'm going to go to the cut. Well, this has been quite an effort here. I did some work on the cement, I think, that made it a little bit rougher. Plus, I was running out of plywood, so it led to a lot of little cuts and a lot of little pieces rather than some bigger pieces all at once. But it's worked out. It looks like it's going to work out just fine. I've got some work to do on some metal here. I think I've got a little bit of a gap here I need to make sure is right. And also too, got a little metal touching on the wall and a little bit of touching on the cement here. I don't like that, so I'm going to go ahead and get that fixed as well. So got to make some supports for the inside here to make sure it's solid. Back down here at the creek reservoir area, what is a perfect morning to go to work, right? To do 30 bags of concrete mixture. It's nice and cool, somewhere in the high 50s, overcast, perfect day to work. So with that, I have set up 100% as you saw with the form ready to go. Mixing this stuff, always a burden, got to get her done. So everything's coming together. Here we go. Well, we're all done putting it in. I just have to do a little bit of edging And I'm really excited. It looks like the form held up perfectly. It's nice and level. It's got all the conditions for a good outcome. We did, as you saw, my mom and I really pressing it into the corners, used the 10-finger agitator, and really got muddy, but it didn't matter. It got in there. It looks like it's pressed. It's got a lot of water up on the top here, which, you know, we'll see how that plays out. But the wind's blowing, and it looks like it'll probably dry up nicely for us. So I just got a little edging to do, clean it up, clean up my tools, and this day's a wrap with this. Today is one of 2 intense days that will be involved with building this concrete structure that allows the culvert water to pass through it. Pulling apart this and unraveling what you got. Now you would have thought one of the intense days was actually building the form, or say mixing the concrete or things of that nature. I wasn't so anxious about that. I was anxious about what did I get when I'm done unwrapping it. And the second part of that equation is there will be 5 80-pound retaining wall bricks that sit on top of this. So that day's still to be determined down the road if I was successful at this at all. And you don't even want to be near the camera when that goes wrong. So hopefully that goes well as well at that point. So I'm going to go ahead and take this all apart right now and share it out with you. So here comes the serious part. How do you get this out? Now, originally I had designed it, I think, pretty well, but I had to make a modification on the other tunnel. It's going to cause me some grief. So as always, I'm going to start with the easy win, or what I think the easy win in first. Well, I finally got this all taken out. I think it came out exactly as expected. Those 2 little holes underneath the culverts, I'll fill those in. I wasn't expecting much of a different result. As much as I was stuffing that down in there, I really don't think I had a great opportunity to get it all underneath there, given the design of everything and the fact that I had to lay the base first. And so, you know, I've got a couple coating situations where I think it could have been better if we get rid of some of that rock. If I had an agitator, I didn't have an agitator. I had the 10-finger agitator, so that wasn't enough. But overall, it looks great. I think I'm really happy with it. I've got it, like I said, once I skim coat that thing, you'll be none the wiser. It'll be a good looking structure, and hopefully do its job, which is to hold up the retaining wall. And I think it will. I've got a ton of hardcore rebar in there to make it all come together. So with that, I think I'm going to call this a success. A little bit of learnings from doing the gate, moved on to this, and I think that's all upside. So I feel good about that. I think we're right there. We're right there. It looks good. With that, on to the next part of the project. I've never done this before. It's pretty weird, you know, it's the staining of the concrete thing, but it is working, so that's a good thing. I don't know if I like the color yet, but, you know, let it dry.
What I was thinking for the
to match in. But, you know.
So is that the biggest rock or is that the biggest rock?
I think the one second from the outside. All complete now for the winter. You know, I'm going to come back in the spring and put a retaining wall against that road base there, so it'll nice and crisp and look really good when it's done. A nice little retaining wall plus a fence. So all this rock, a lot of work, a lot of effort. You saw it in the video. Really happy with the outcome of it. Like I said, this is held temporary. We do have more rock coming, so that'll come in the next couple episodes. We're going to have a company come out and do a conveyor belt and a telebelt. So we'll be doing quite a bit of rock dropping. It's somewhere probably around 425 tons of rock. Quite a bit. So ultimately, that'll set us up for the winter and get us locked in so that the spring we will have water in the reservoir. Until next time.